Let's go. Here we go. We got a Super Bowl champion. 7-time one joins us, Tom Brady. Tommy, how are you today?
What's up, guys? How you guys doing? Nice to talk to you. I know it was a pretty epic game yesterday, some great performances, and it's kind of the way it should go for the last game of the year. So I was kind of watching like everyone else, and I saw a lot of great quarterbacking, which, I felt Jalen played incredible. Patrick played really clutch when he had to, and it was a very fitting end to a great season. And the two best teams throughout the course of the year were in the Super Bowl, and they played really one of the great games all season. So it was really fun to watch.
Let's go. Presented by Hertz. At Hertz, you can change the scenery without ever changing your standards. That's right. No matter where you are, with Hertz, you'll always find exactly the right vehicle to make your Let's Go moment unforgettable. Visit Hertz.com to book today. Hertz. Let's go. Tom, are you watching the game trying to figure out how you would play, or are you watching the game as a fan?
I think a little bit of both. And I think what I watched more yesterday was I did listen to the broadcast, intently listening to how, the game was called. I was watching the players and watching the quarterbacks. I was watching some of the defense. And obviously as a fan of the sport. So I basically covered every base we had. There's a lot of different things for me to watch for now. So I was probably more intent watching a Super Bowl that I haven't played in than I ever have been. So for that, I think it was a win. How about you, Scratchy? What'd you do? How do you watch those games?
I was at the game, and I'm watching it, just trying to enjoy it, the Super Bowl as a fan. But I'm also watching it, trying to figure out what's going to happen here, where the momentum's going, what's a good play. People who I'm sitting with are football experts, so they're telling me what's going to happen before. I miss not seeing the broadcast. But that's an interesting point for you. Are you trying to figure out what you might say in 20-second spurts?
Yeah, for sure. And I thought it was interesting. Mahomes got hurt there in the end of the first half. I thought the Chiefs were in deep trouble because their best playmaker and one of the best quarterbacks in the game injures himself trying to get out of the pocket. They're already losing. Philly is basically unstoppable on offense. And they go into halftime and you worry if Patrick's able to come out and perform against the best pass rush in football year. So that was a total flip of the script because I was like, there's no way the Chiefs have a chance. And then here you come out in the second half and they went, I think, touchdown, field goal or something like that. And, turned into like this epic second half when you didn't think they had much of a chance to win. And that's just how the games go. It's even in our Atlanta Super Bowl against Atlanta when we were down 28-3. I mean, we basically couldn't do anything right for 2.5 quarters and really then couldn't do anything wrong for a quarter and a half. Amazing how that game is. And it's almost like two separate games. There's a first half and there's a second half that are normal just halves, but because the length of the day, it does happen quite a bit where, one team plays incredibly well in one half and the next team plays incredibly well in the other. So it was a really, kind of played to the script. Although when I saw Patrick hurt his ankle, I thought there really wasn't much a chance at that point for the Chiefs to find a way to win. But he played his ass off as he always does, and what a champion he is, a great leader. They got a great coaching staff. So many key players made big plays in the game. Great kicker, great punt returner. They did what they needed to do. They had some really creative plays there to get some touchdowns there in the fourth quarter. The one where he, faked the handoff and threw it to the guy in the right flat wide open. Then they had the one where they did something similar. They threw it to the guy in the left flat wide open. That's what
Sky Moore and then Tony and Sky Moore.
Yeah, you want to find some creative, easy plays down there so you don't always have to thread the needle. So you try to, work hard with some of those tendencies that you've seen on film and, you take advantage of an over-aggressiveness. And they really got a couple of free plays down there, it's nice to throw to guys, that end up being wide open. I've had my fair share of those, and it's better than trying to cram the ball in there to, 2 feet of space high on the back line of the end zone. So it was a really creative game plan. And, the Chiefs earned it. They deserved it, and that's why they're world champs.
I think fans are always surprised how are guys wide open in the Super Bowl like that on critical plays.
I think the interesting part is, it's 2 weeks of prep. And I feel like for me personally, when I've had 2 weeks of prep, you're so conditioned to, let's say, a 6-day prep week. Play Sunday, recovery Monday, and then Tuesday to Sunday's prep. When I've been able to study for 2 weeks, I felt like I had such an advantage because by the time the first 6-day kind of time frame came and went, I was fully prepared to play. And then I literally went through the plan with a fine-tooth comb, day in and day out, making sure every motion was right, every formation, trying to watch every bit of film again and again. So I knew the movements of the defenders better than they knew themselves. And when I had those 2 weeks, you can really, unless you're changing and totally re-identifying kind of what you're doing, the other team's doing the same thing. So they basically watched every bit of film from the whole season. They know all the tendencies. They know all the emotions. They've been coached up on the things that you do really well. Now, you don't want to go into those games and change what worked either. So it's such a fine balance between changing what works and also giving them new things that make it really hard on them. And I thought the Chiefs did an unbelievable job. I think Philly kind of played to script, and they really played the style they've been playing. They used Jalen a lot. He ran a lot. He had a really good game pass on the ball. So, he had a tremendous game. That offense had a tremendous game. If you look at the stats, you'd think Philly won, but a few plays here or there, like the punt return and then the fumble by Jalen where, they ran in for a touchdown, those are, those you really don't account for. And when they happen and they go against you, those are hard to overcome.
Jim Gray with Tom Brady. Our program is Let's Go. We're brought to you by USAA. USAA was started in 1922 by a group of soldiers who made a promise to always take care of their own. And after 100 years, USAA is still serving the military and their families. Find out more at usaa.com/100. USAA. Tommy, you talk about Patrick Mahomes, and he said nothing was keeping him off the field. He was just determined, and we all saw, like you mentioned at the end of the half, didn't look good. He was clearly in pain. I think he hurt himself the play before, and then he tried to stretch it out on that next play in the run and then limped off badly and went over to the sidelines, clearly in pain. Can you tell us what the adrenaline is like and what the thought process is that you're not coming off the field because it's the biggest game of the year? These opportunities don't happen all the time. They have so far for Patrick Mahomes, but any one of them could be your last. Can you just take us through what's going on to get yourself into that type of frame of mind?
I think the important part is, you're laying it on the line for your teammates. And, I thought when you're at this point in the season and you realize that when Monday comes, the season's over for everybody, you're going to do everything you can. There's nothing to hold back for. So if there's any chance of you going, you got to go. And, if it's a catastrophic injury, there's obviously no way. But, Pat found a way to deal with it, and he looked great in the pocket. He moved great. It looked like everything was stable, and he overcame, an injury a few weeks ago to lead the team. And it looked like he healed pretty well. So, I've been a part of games where we lose critical players in championship games and they're out for good, and it's hard to overcome, but nothing was going to keep Pat from doing that. And again, I think that's why you're a champion. There's a physical and mental toughness to the sport. And, so much we're trying to take away the physical toughness by limiting certain things. I mean, I always think you should eliminate cheap shots. Eliminating a physical aspect of the game, in my opinion, we're doing a disservice to the game because it's a physical sport. And no one wants to see anyone get hurt, but at the same time, you've got to learn to defend yourself. And I think the biggest change in today's game is, defending yourself. The referees are defending the players, and your opponents are defending yourself as a player rather than you defending yourself, which is, I think, the biggest difference in the game today. So, those guys are, there's a lot of tough guys out there. You sign up for a really tough sport, and when it comes down to the end of the season, you want to be at your best, and you want to give your team the best chance to win, and the best players have to be out on the field.
Well, you mentioned that word, referees, and you're not a player anymore in the National Football League, and everybody's talking about today James Bradberry, who admitted after the game that it was holding. He did tug on the jersey of Juju Smith-Schuster, but he was hoping that the referees would let it go. Turns out to be the difference in the game, a penalty that he admits to that could have been overlooked. From your vantage point, what did you think?
Well, it's always, I think, easier not to call it. The hard one is when you do call it, because there's a lot of scrutiny with that call. And I think the point is at least from a receiver DB standpoint, if you're not going to cover them, let's say within the letter of the law, and you're going to tug at them, you can impede the receiver from where he wants to go and create an almost impossible throw and catch by the quarterback. And at the same time, on the other side of the ball, if the receiver pushes off, there's really nothing the DB can do in order to make the play. So it's such a hard situation because you don't know how the game's being called all day long. There's absolutely plays where the DBs hold all the time. And there's absolutely plays where the receivers can push off. There's absolutely every play in the game where the offensive line is holding a D lineman, and vice versa. There's absolutely plays where the D line is holding the O lineman. So, those plays come up all the time. They could be called every in every part of the game they could be called. So the fact that it just comes down to that one moment, I'm sure there were lots of other holds that were let go. There was probably a few that they called. And, in the end, you just have to, the ref's trying to do the best that he could do. So I don't get caught up too much on, one call. I think I've been in sports long enough where I realize there's a lot of things that impact the game. And, one referee's call, yeah, it's important, but, the referees are doing the best they could do, and they're not robots either. Maybe one day there will be robots calling games and everyone will be perfect. It'll be like Wimbledon where, every call is perfect. But, what would happen? John McEnroe, he wouldn't be the John McEnroe we know if there were a bunch of, video replays either. So it's just, that's the way sports are. And it gives everyone a chance to talk about something the next day. And it's like, it's like boxing, it's, if you wanted to win, you could have knocked the guy out. Why let it go to the scorecards? So, you always hate to be judged in a sport like that. And sometimes the games come down to those things, but you as a player have a lot of things you can do to impact the game anyway.
Chiefs are the champions. Everybody else is undefeated today. It's all even as we now head into the 2023 season. Jim Gray with Tom Brady right here on Let's Go. We're brought to you by American Express. You love hearing the sound of the whistle? Excited about going to the game? You can smell the concessions from your seat. Reminds you of the thrill of being there, and you know that Amex will be with you every step of the way. Because when you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it. Fans now going to have to live life without football, and the Eagles are going to have to live life now without football. How long does a bitter defeat like this linger, Tommy? And what do you do about it?
My loss, and our team's loss to the New York Giants in 2007 still gnaws at me. That was 15 years ago. So I think the reality is this becomes a part of your DNA and the fabric of who you are, and hopefully you can learn from it. I think that, some of these losses, when you make it this far and you're so close to victory and you don't get there, they stick with you forever. And not that you agonize over them 15 years later, but you certainly wish the outcome were a little bit different. And, that's part of being on the stage, though. That's part of being in sports is, you've got to learn to deal with failure, and it doesn't go well all the time. As many times as I was playing in the Super Bowl X, and we won the Super Bowl VII, and how fortunate I was to be a part of all those championship teams. I had played 23 seasons. I had really played 21 seasons. I was injured one, and I missed my first year, just didn't play much. But, 7 wins in 20 years, that's 33%. So, I guess as a baseball player, that'd be pretty good, but for a football player, you're only going to win it if you're lucky, every once in a while. And, when you lose it, you're much more likely to win. You think about 23 season, well, there's 32 competitive teams that all spend the same amount of money, that all have the same time frames, that all have competitive. It's very hard to do. So what separates you from the rest? What separates you is a competitiveness and desire to get better every day. And February is very important, just as March is, just as April, just as May. All those things build into the next year. And I was on that hamster wheel for a very, very, very long time. And it's going to be interesting to adjust to a new life without the hamster wheel, and also still have a competitiveness about me that, I want to do great things in life. And I'm sure all these players will want to be very competitive. Some of these guys who played yesterday, it may have been their last football game. Some of those guys may retire. Some guys may never get a chance again on another roster. So, you don't take any of these things for granted. It was a good season. It was a great ending to a good season, and I was just happy to watch it and watch it from a little different perspective as well. And I know the Eagles are disappointed. They had a hell of a season. They were probably the favorites the whole season. Chiefs overcame a lot of things, and it ultimately ended up being a great Super Bowl.
I've said it before on this program to you that Al Davis used to say this to me all the time. It's a vicious struggle to be number one. One team wins, and the other 31 are looking for answers.
Yeah.
And so now the Eagles will look for answers. How much motivation is there in a loss? There's the despair we know, but does that drive you? Does it drive you crazy?
No.
Or does it drive you to
No,
win?
I think it drives you to, it depends what kind of competitor you are. Look, I think the Chiefs should be looking for answers too. I know they won, but a few plays here or there, they don't win. So I don't think just because the outcome went the way you want that you should approach things any differently. I feel like the process of understanding what kind of team you have and what you're trying to build year in and year out gives teams chances to be successful. And if you think just because you win the Super Bowl, that means you're going to win it next year and you don't have to look for answers and you can just ride on the fact that, oh, well, we won it last year. Well, no one cares about that. there hasn't been a repeat champion for a long time. I mean, it's too hard to do. To win one Super Bowl is extremely difficult. To win two in a row is nearly impossible. So every team has to rebuild. Every team has to revamp. And where does the motivation come from? Hopefully it comes from a lot of internal motivations that, a team is committed to you. You want to go out there and do the job. You want to make this part of your life in order for you to maximize your potential. Some guys don't want to do that. Some guys are cool with being on the practice squad. Some guys are cool with playing a limited role. Some guys are cool with playing 3 or 4 years and moving on to something else. So it all depends on the player. And, you can look at some of those players and realize what their levels of commitment are. And when it goes well, it's a beautiful thing to see, because we all look at those things and admire them for the discipline and commitment it takes to reach such a high level. And I think the Eagles should be very proud of what they accomplished. I think the Bengals should be very proud of it. I think a lot of these teams that made it down to the last 4 or the last 8, you're clearly ahead of the rest. And if you're ahead of the rest, what do you do to stay ahead? You keep working. You keep working on the process. You continue to refine the things that you need to. And it doesn't still guarantee anything, but it puts you in the best position possible to succeed as you go forward.
I'm Jim Gray. He's Tom Brady. We're brought to you by Bank of America. Bank of America's digital tools are so impressive, even football fans can't stop banking. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/can't-stop-banking. What would you like the power to do? Member FDIC. Stay with us. So much more right here on Let's Go when we return.
Hey everybody, I'm Jake Mintz.
And I'm Jordan Schusterman, and we are the hosts of Baseball Barbercast. And Jake, is it true football season is over?
Yeah, the ground dog in Pennsylvania poked his head up from the ground and he screamed, "It's baseball time, everybody!"
Indeed, my friend, and spring training is almost here. And if you want to hear all of the happenings in Arizona and Florida, you should listen to us, Baseball Barbercast.
So download Baseball Barbercast on the SXM app, available with all of our trials and popular plans, or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. That's BARB Cast.
Welcome back to Let's Go. I'm Jim Gray along with Tom Brady. Our program is brought to you by Kay Jewelers. There's just one day left until Valentine's Day, and you can find the perfect gift at Kay.com and pick it up in store. Celebrate Valentine's Day and every kiss with Kay.
Every kiss begins with K. Oh, I'm going to get good at that next year.
And the big ring went out yesterday, 2 days before Valentine's Day, and the Chiefs now claim it. As they will be picking up the Vince Lombardi trophy and the ring that goes along with it. Hey, Tom, the Kelce brothers had a great exchange after the game. Had to be a very difficult situation. Here's what Travis, who won with the Chiefs, had to say about his brother.
There's nothing you can really say to a loved one in a situation like that. You joke around all the time and say that you want to be your brother in the biggest stage ever, but it's a weird feeling. It's a weird feeling, and that team had great leadership, great coaches. Obviously, it came down to the end, and we got all the respect in the world for those Eagles, man. But there's nothing really I could say to him other than I love him, and he played a hell of a year, a hell of a season.
Wow, such respect and love, and I think that's what it's about, man. Sports are amazing parts for our communities and certainly for our families. And I can imagine how torn Travis and Jason's parents must have been. And obviously, win or lose, someone was going to feel great and the other one wasn't going to feel great. And I just think the empathy that Travis shows is amazing. And he's an amazing guy. I've got a chance to be around him. What a competitor. You would love to go to battle with that guy any day of the week. And you could see even in victory, he has compassion for and empathy for his brother, which tells you a lot about who he is. So nothing easy in the Kelce household. I'm sure had it gone the other way, Jason would probably have felt the exact same way. And, unfortunately both teams couldn't win and someone wasn't going to feel great, but it's, that's a lot of raw emotion you hear. And that's what, that's a great tribute to the love he has for his brother.
It sure was. And hard to see anybody lose that game, particularly so competitive and just comes down to just a play here or there. But watching Travis play with Patrick Mahomes, does it remind you at all of yourself and Gronk and the connection that you guys had?
Well, I think naturally, yes, obviously it was a great connection. I'd say quarterback and tight end. I think there were other great connections, I've had in my career. But, Gronk was truly one of a kind. And I think Travis and Patrick, that's you should just marvel at that. It's incredible to watch, two people on the same team who are the best in the business at what they're doing, and the chemistry they have. And I think a lot of those things that they do are, Patrick has a really good idea where Travis is running, obviously, based on the play call. But there's a lot of ad-libbing that's going on with Travis as well. And Patrick reads his body language and makes some spectacular throws. I've watched it all year. I studied the Chiefs a lot this year. And, when you watch them at their best, and Patrick's playing as good as anyone's ever played the position, Travis is playing as well as anyone's played the position, people will say, well, how can they not stop that? Well, the question is, how do you stop it? If you play zone, there's only two things you do. You play man or you play zone. If you play zone, then he's going to find a spot in the hole somewhere. He's going to figure out how to use his speed and his quickness to, work his way off a defender. And if it's man coverage, there is basically nobody that can cover Travis Kelce man-to-man coverage. So the only thing you can do is maybe you'd say double him, put two guys on him, which that exposes everyone else to one-on-one coverage all the time. So it's a very difficult matchup, and I had that experience a lot even when I had Gronk. Gronk was a very difficult matchup. He was faster than all the linebackers, and he was bigger than all the DBs. And when you have that size speed advantage, it becomes very difficult to stop. And Travis and Patrick are doing incredible things, throwing and catching the ball, regular season, postseason. I think what those guys have accomplished in their career together is really amazing.
Tom, Andy Reid now wins his second Super Bowl. He's a Hall of Fame coach, and he's a terrific guy. He's a friend of this program. I'm really fond of him, like him a lot. I know you do as well.
Yeah.
I'm kind of trying to understand this fascination with retiring. The guy just wins a Super Bowl. You've been in this position, so perhaps you can explain it to us. He's hit with these questions about retiring. He says, no, if they'll have me, I'm coming back. But he just won a huge game, and that's what you get hit with. Can you kind of explain to us what that's like?
Well, I don't know, Scratchy, why don't you retire? I don't know. How do you answer that when you say, hey, just retire? Just, hey, you're doing great. You're loving what you're doing. Go ahead and stop doing it. I guess that's just the natural thing in sports because people are expecting it. But look, it should be up to everyone to choose when they want to stop doing what they love to do. If you love sports and you love football and you're winning championships, you're going to retire to do something that you don't love, that you don't have an opportunity to compete. I think it's a very hard thing. And naturally, I just think those are just questions that people ask. But I don't, he knows how he feels about coaching. And if he feels like he can give it everything he can, then he does. And it's a great thing. But look, the league needs more good coaches. That's the reality. Anyone who's asking Andy Reid to retire is crazy, because why would you let one of the great coaches, want him to leave? Why do you want any of the great quarterbacks to retire? Why do you want any of the great receivers to retire? You want this game great. If you're going to be great, you better have great people doing it. And, the league should be investing in the greatness of its players and the greatness of its coaches and figuring out ways for people to play longer so that the sport and the product could be great. You shouldn't be, because you win a Super Bowl, going to be retiring or, ask players who are super committed to being great and, asking them to go do something else. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
It's crazy. It's insane. And I've probably been guilty of it myself. I've asked a lot of questions over the course of all these years. The longer now that I've done it, it's first of all, it's the wrong time. And second of all, I guess you and everybody else, you're going to let us know when you've had enough.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're going to answer right there, yes, I retire. I mean, very few people, I can't think of anybody who's done it on the spot. Can you?
No.
Perhaps in the ring I can. Perhaps in the ring I can. Yes, I can. Larry Holmes and Mike Tyson saying, I've had enough. This is it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure that was in their mind before the fight too. I'm sure that was in their mind in the training camp, and just realizing that if I want to really compete, I got to know, I know what it takes to compete. And it's a huge commitment. And I always liken it to running a marathon. Does everyone love finishing a marathon? Yeah, everyone loves finishing. Does everyone love starting a marathon? Yeah. But it's probably those middle miles of the marathon that really suck. And then every time you're in the middle of that marathon, you're like, why the fuck did I do this? Why am I running this marathon again? It's exhausting. But the reality is it's easy to start the marathon and it's easy to finish the marathon. The hard part is the middle, and you train for the middle. And that training goes way beyond the start line and the finish line. That's months in advance. And that's early morning runs and late night runs and getting your body worked on and getting it prepared so that it can accomplish a feat that you're setting out to achieve. That's a very competitive feat. So those things are tough. You can't just, you just don't wing it. Not at this level, not when the competition's as tough it is. And every year there's a new group of 20, 21, and 22-year-olds that are coming into the league that are looking to make their mark, that are looking to start their own career and begin their own legacy and make their own money and try to set up their own family. And, for me, I've been able to do that for 23 years, loving it every step of the way. And there's still a deep love for it. There always will be. And I think all the great competitors, my contemporaries, Peyton and Phillip and Drew and Aaron Rodgers and people that I just admired so much, we love the game so much. Peyton can't get away from the game. Peyton's doing shows every Monday or, every Monday night talking about the sport. And, it's just ingrained in the fiber of our DNA. And, you want to see it done well. And if there's any hope that I have for football, it's that, people don't screw it up and make stupid rules that make it impossible for the players to play and for the referees to judge, and allow the players to defend themselves and coaches to coach well and players to work hard at their craft and get better so that the product of the sport is better now than when they started. That should be the goal for everyone.
Jim Gray and Tom Brady here on Let's Go. Our program is brought to you by Mastro's. For your next special occasion, visit Mastro's, an unmatched dining experience. Known for its world-class service and unique cuisine, Mastro's offers the finest prime steaks and the freshest seafood, all in a lively atmosphere. Visit Mastros.com for locations and reservations. Papa Brady was there twice last week.
Good. I got to get him eating some salad. Got to get him eating healthy.
They've got great salads there.
Good.
Big selection.
I hope he ate it.
Tom, we now turn our attention to the off-season. Well, first of all, what did you think of Rihanna?
She's great. She's great. She's a great performer and been at it for a long time, and she just blows everyone away all the time. So she's one of the unique performers. It's great to see people on that stage, too, because I think that stage of the Super Bowl is reserved for a lot of special people. And I love last year's halftime show with Dre and Eminem and Snoop and Kendrick Lamar, and this year was great. Rihanna's pretty great. So they're tough to top, and she did a great job.
When you're playing, do you miss that? And did you go back and watch it on tape, or did it just kind of be one of those things that got by you?
No, I didn't see much. I'd much rather not see it if I'm playing. I'd take that 1,000,000 over 1,000,000. So I never have really gone back and watched any of them, unfortunately. I just kind of hear the performances. Even I remember when we beat Carolina in 2003, we came off the field, and that was when we had the wardrobe malfunction with Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson. And they were asking me about that, and I couldn't even understand what they were telling me about. And they were like, "Oh, did you see a halftime show, blah, blah, blah?" And I was like, "No, I didn't see anything. I was thinking about the game, and I was trying to figure out, halftime adjustments." So it took a while for us to figure out exactly what had gone on. So that's for the fans and not for the players.
I caught up with Paul Tagliabue, the former commissioner, this weekend, and we had a chat about that. He was on the air with me, the commissioner, during that very famous wardrobe malfunction with Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson. We didn't see it. We didn't see it from the radio booth. And so we just kept talking about whatever the league issues were. And then after the interview was concluded, there was a man by the name of Joe Brown, handled government affairs and league affairs for the NFL for more than 50 years. And he looked like he saw a ghost, Tommy. And we had no idea. I was starting to think in my head, what did I ask him that he's so upset about? What's gone on here? And then we were told, but we didn't even see it.
I think in the end, it was probably a good thing for the NFL because everyone got to talk about it, and it was just more publicity for halftime shows. So is any publicity bad publicity? That's what they say. So who knows?
Well, speaking about that, you have your own apparel line, and it's called Brady Brand. And you can check it out at bradybrand.com, including the new Brady pant, perhaps the new Brady underwear. Go to Brady Brand. Get comfortable now, look good, and feel even better. Brady Brand, let's go. So the Honors celebrated your retirement, and here's what Kirk Cousins and Kelly Clarkson thought.
Tom's won 7 times, went to 10. He's on some beach, so maybe Kirk could win.
Wait, you can really sing?
Yeah. Since he's been gone.
Wait, hold on. First of all, you can really sing. What?
Let's go.
'Cause now that he's gone, teams have hope for the first time. Brady
Kelly Clarkson!
Give it up for Kirk Cousins, who can sing, apparently.
That's, I think, a millennial verbiage. I actually even had to look that up, so I didn't even quite know what that meant. But I just thought it was a good picture with some underwear. Nothing more than that.
Is that you in the
Did it
picture?
motivate you to go buy some? That's what I really want to know. That's what the plan is. Actually, all the ladies. That's what it should be. Have the ladies and all the wives. It's Valentine's Day. Go buy some. BradyBrand.com. Get your favorite underwear. They're actually amazing. I'm wearing them right now. And I promise not to share too many more of those photos.
I don't even know quite how to approach this portion of the segment.
You know, it's not for you. It's not for the men. It's for the women. There's a difference.
There you go. All right. Looks like you found something to do here in retirement. Keeping everybody on the internet very busy.
It is a little easier to do when you don't have to walk into a locker room the next day. I will say that, because if I did that and walked in the locker room, I'd have gotten a lot of shit. But it's nice when I'm away that I only hear from a few of the people that like to give me shit. So I didn't have to deal with the whole team doing it. And they got plenty of Brady brand. I gave away a lot of Brady brand to my teammates the last few years, so I'm sure they were very supportive.
Another guy who probably would get a lot of shit if he walked into a locker room today is a man who's starting 4 days in darkness, and that's Aaron Rodgers. Has announced to everybody that he'll be going away, and the lights will be out in a small room, and he'll get some food and so forth, some nutrition. But he's going to go and try and figure out what his next move is and cleanse his mind and stay off his telephone and not watch television and be in the dark. The Jets have inquired about Aaron Rodgers' availability. So it looks like he could possibly be on the move. He could possibly retire. What do you think about spending 4 days in the dark?
You know what? I hope he doesn't retire, because, like I said, I think the league needs good quarterbacks, and he's one of the greats. So if he retires, it'll be a sad day for the league. He's an incredible player, and everyone has their different processes they go through. And you know what? I think we all need to get off our phone a little bit more. I think we all need to get away from the TV a little bit more. I think we all need a little more nature and a little more silence and a little more peace. And however he's going about it, good for him. Everyone's got their unique way to process the season, and we've all got to be on. It's very intense for all of us, and it's nice to, you know, everyone gets to choose what they want to do. But certainly from the standpoint of him leaving the game and the way that he's playing, he broke his thumb this year and still played tremendous. And you could see as he got healthy throughout the year how incredibly talented he is. So, you know, I hope the good players keep playing. That's what my hope is. That's what I try to do. And now you hope that the next generation does that. And I hope they have the tools necessary to do that. And I was very fortunate to work with the guy, Alex, who is my, best friend, a brother to me, and taught me so much. I hope these other guys like Patrick can play a long time, and Jalen can play a long time, and Josh and Joe Burrow, and, these tremendous players that bring so much. That's why we watch, not because the color of the jerseys, because the players in the jerseys. And, everyone's going to have to get refreshed. Everyone's going to have to figure out how to take a jump to the next level, to work their craft a little more, to dig a little bit deeper, to push their teammates a little bit more. And everyone's got different ways to go about that.
It just speaks to how hard the game is that you play. It just speaks to what it takes mentally, physically, and to do it year in and year out, and to try to achieve excellence. And that's what Aaron has done. And it's just friggin' hard, isn't it? Can you kind of tell us how you go about it? And, you've often said that it's not what you do once or twice, but how you keep doing it. And here's a guy who keeps doing it. It's just really hard, isn't it?
It's an intense process of preparation. And like I said, with the marathon example, you just can't show up and expect to be clicking on all cylinders. It's a year-round process, and you gotta try to commit as best you can year-round, knowing the responsibilities and expectations that come along with it. So you just can't wing it. And the guys that wing it, they don't have long careers, and you know what? They probably don't love it that much, because if you feel like it's work in the off season, then it's a tough job, because it's so physical and it's so intense, and it draws on every part of your being, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And you got to get yourself to that position in order to compete against the best in the world. And if you do that, there's a great payoff in the end. And if you don't, that's okay too. It's your life and it's your choice. But the great ones, I want to see them play as long as possible. Everyone wants to see Tiger Woods play golf. Everyone wants to see, Floyd Mayweather fight. Everyone wants to see Tom Brady and Peyton Manning play and Patrick Mahomes. And, that's what we do. We try to go out and entertain people and try to be great at what you do and make a contribution to the world that way.
Did you ever feel like it was work?
Nope. I never felt like a day in my life. I felt like I've had to do it because I enjoyed it so much. And I enjoyed the work, obviously the physical work. I really enjoyed the camaraderie with my teammates. And, we all should. I think that's probably what everyone misses, this amazing camaraderie and a fellowship of men in a locker room where we can share exactly who we are. And you know what you can't do? You can't fake your teammates out. There's one thing you can't do is pull the wool over their eyes. You have to be authentic to who you are. And really, you have to care about them and you have to care about what you're trying to accomplish. And if you don't, they see right through it. Because they see you at your best and they see you at your worst and they see you in front of the media and they see you when there's no cameras, and we can all tell who the phonies are. And those guys don't last very long in the NFL.
Tommy, I want to thank you for coming on this program all year long. You've answered all the questions. You've given tremendous insight to our audience and to the fans. We're grateful for the career that you have given to all of us who follow professional football. Said it last week and I will say it for the rest of my life. We've never seen anything like it before, and we'll never see anything like it again. So from all of us, thanks for doing Let's Go, and we look forward to another great year and hearing from you when this time rolls around next year in September.
Sounds good. And thank you to all our guests that have come on the show. And thank you, Jim and Snake, and all your hard work throughout the year. And for our sponsors, we appreciate you. We're really grateful for your support. We're grateful for the fans and Sirius Radio who have supported us. And, we want to do great things. And for as much as people think that they're supporting me and giving to me, I would like to do the same thing in return, because that's what reciprocity means and that's what relationships are all about. So have a great off season, everyone. I know that everyone's probably counting down until fantasy football season starts next year and they can start picking their players, because I know it's a big moment for everyone. And maybe I'll have a fantasy team at some point next year, which will be fun for me too. So everyone have a great off season, and we'll see you next year, as it will be a lot of fun as well.
That's Tom Brady. He's our expert. Can't work with a better one. The expert of all experts, and any athlete's going to tell you it helps to work with an expert for buying or refinancing a home. Your expert is an independent mortgage broker. You can find one at findamortgagebroker.com. It's powered by the #1 lender in America, United Wholesale Mortgage, LLC, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 3038. It's licensed in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. Let's Go, presented by Hertz. Thanks to our terrific producer for a great season, Dave the Snake Hagen. He just carries such a huge load, does a great job, and we're grateful to him. Production assistance by Harris Fabishoff. Thank you, Harris. And to our sponsors, we've got the best sponsors, and we really thank you all for supporting our program. Hertz, American Express, USAA, Bank of America, K Jewelers, United Wholesale Mortgage, Brady Brand, Mastro's, Morton's, Del Frisco's, and Golden Nugget Hotel and Casinos. Let's Go podcast with Tom Brady was produced by 199 Productions and Scratchy Productions. Thanks so much for joining us. We will talk to you again next week. It's the best of Let's Go, and we'll see you next year. Right back here on Let's Go on Sirius XM. Oh, we got a Super Bowl champion, and we've got Larry Fitzgerald. The great Larry Fitzgerald did a terrific job, chairman of the host committee here in Phoenix, and it was a very successful Super Bowl, both on and off the field. Everybody really enjoyed themselves, and Kansas City Chiefs walked away. Fitz, did you have a good time this week?
I had a great time. It was unbelievable to see the city and the ability to host such a magnificent event. Just all the parties, and you have WM and the golf tournament going on at the same time. It was just a really, really wonderful time, and the game was great too. Early on, it looked like the Eagles were going to run away with it, and Kansas City continued to fight. And the ending was just Andy Reid at his finest. Managing that game to the closing seconds really was something special to watch.
Our program is presented by Hertz. At Hertz, you can change the scenery without ever changing your standards. That's right. No matter where you are, with Hertz, you'll always find exactly the right vehicle to make your Let's Go moment unforgettable. Visit Hertz.com to book today. Hertz, let's go. So it comes down to that field goal, and let's get into this game here a little bit, Fitz, and get your thoughts on what transpired. Second biggest comeback in Super Bowl history, team down 10 points at the half, and Kansas City doesn't look good. Patrick Mahomes' ankle looks like it's pretty badly injured once again right before the end of the first half, and Eagles have a 10-point lead going in, and he just rallied them and wasn't coming off the field, and you can't say you're surprised by it, but what did you see as the critical factor being in allowing the Chiefs to get back into this game and win?
There was 3 plays that really kind of jumped out in my mind. There was one, Devontae Smith had a play that he caught, wasn't able to secure the catch all the way to the ground before the half. And that play, if they make that catch and they're able to score 7 points going into the half, it really changed the dynamics of that football game. It puts Kansas City in a completely different mode coming out of the half. You know, it makes them be a much more aggressive team. The other play that really changed, obviously, was the fumble by Jalen Hurts that resulted in a touchdown, a defense touchdown by the Kansas City Chiefs, which really, really took the wind out of their sail. And, you know, whenever you have defensive plays that really change it, I had a play like that in our game in the Super Bowl many years back. It's a gut kick that you just don't ever really recover from, you know, but you're always looking back at it. We messed up this opportunity. And then there was the punt return that
But then they went and got a 10-point lead after that. They recovered from that. They
recovered,
didn't
but
seem to be that deflated.
But they were not nearly as aggressive from that point on. You know, when you think maybe Jalen's not taking care of the football, maybe he doesn't have his best foot forward. He's not at the same level that we've seen him performing at. You know, should I be dialing up these plays the way I have? And so I think it definitely changed, you know, a few of the things that the Philadelphia Eagles were trying. And then also that punt return by Kansas City. You know, that was a huge, huge play to shift the momentum of that game. And it really started giving Kansas City life and gave them that real hope that they can win this game against a really good football team.
Yet the game comes down to that pass interference call right there at the end of the game on James Bradberry, who admitted afterwards that, yeah, he tugged on the jersey. He was holding it, and he was hoping they would let it slide. The impression of this will be that whoever you're for, you're going to see it one way. So, well, Jim, yes, they should have let it go if you're an Eagles fan. No, they shouldn't have let it go if you're a Chiefs fan. And then everybody else is in between. What's your thoughts on that play that Juju Smith-Schuster, the ball was clearly thrown over his head, you know, a good 8 to 10 yards?
Well, Jim, I think anybody that watched that game, you know, if you can watch it objectively, you know, you saw the jersey being tugged. He impeded his ability to separate. The ball obviously was overthrown. That's why they didn't call it a pass interference. They called it a defensive holding. I think it was the right call. You hate to see the officials make these calls, you know, that are essentially determine the winner and loser of the biggest game of the year. But an infraction is an infraction, and it was a hold, Jim. It was clear as day.
And after all the talk of what's gone on with the officiating this season, Carl Cheffers and his crew had a couple of issues during the game, but really nothing that was that eye-opening or anything that you would say, you know, was a major impediment to the game. So it comes down to a referee throwing a flag and then terrific clock management before Harrison Butker comes out and kicks the game-winning field goal, just like he did in the championship game, ices the game, and they're Super Bowl champions. It kind of takes the air out of everyone that the flag comes on a third down, you know, and we don't get to see if Jalen Hurts can do the same thing that Patrick Mahomes just did, moving his team down the field.
Yeah, it was, you know, deflating. You know, the stadium reacted in that way at the game, as you saw. But you know what? Like the official had no choice but to make that call, Jim. You can't not make that call. Like that's, you know, there's plays that are bang bang that we see every single week, right? And there's, you know, holes that, you know, don't necessarily, you know, impede the progress of the outside rusher or the receiver in this instant. But like that, you had to. He threw the ball to him. He couldn't get to it because he was held. And like, I know people were upset about it this morning, but that was the right call.
I agree with that. Yeah, got to make that call. You know, you spend a lot of time with defensive backs. You made a living back there going against them, but you also played against your teammates, so you know the techniques and everything. Should that have been what he did at that point, or was he just clearly knew he was going to be beat and he resorted to something that he had to prevent that touchdown?
Well, you know,
which, by the way, if he lets him score the touchdown, The only way you lose this game is the clock. So let him go score. Then you get the ball back. You can control the clock and perhaps get a touchdown or a 2-point conversion. Who knows? But the only way you can lose is to do what he did.
That's not the mentality that you're coached to. That's not the mentality that you grew up playing your entire life. Letting somebody is one thing. Like the Eagles decided, hey, we're gonna let Jared McKinnon. We're gonna let him score this touchdown on the run play. That's one thing where you decide as a defense. This is the plan. Everybody play according to what we decided. We're gonna let him score. That was not the plan with him. And there's no way you let somebody score in that situation. He only did it because he felt he was out leveraged and he was beat, and that's why he grabbed him. He did. That was a survival technique. You see it happen all the time. And a lot of times he gets away with it, especially when it's low on the hip. The official from the outside, lines judge is making that call. Sometimes they don't see it. And unfortunately, he got caught.
Jim Gray with the great Larry Fitzgerald. We're here on Let's Go. Our program is brought to you by Bank of America. Bank of America's digital tools are so impressive, you just can't stop banking, on or off the field. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/can'tstopbanking. What would you like the power to do? Member FDIC. So you lost the Super Bowl, Larry, and this thing is just incredible. And I don't mean to take you back to what happened, but Jalen Hurts and those guys, are going to have this now for the rest of this season until they can play again next season. And Tom said earlier on the program, he's still thinking about the loss to the Patriots. It still bothers him to this day. What advice do you give to the guys to try and move forward with their lives and come back with that motivation or to put this game somehow deep into the reservoir?
Well, Jim, it lasts with you a long time, Jim. There's no easy way around it. You're reminded of it, often, and it's what people around you are going to be talking to you about, and so it will consume your thoughts and your conversations for quite a while. But it also really motivates you to try to get back there, Jim. It really lit a fire under me, and you look at Jalen Hurts and his maturation process. He went from being a youngster, 2 years ago to getting an opportunity late in the season, to the following year playing good enough to get his team into the tournament, into the playoffs, where they lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the first round. And now his third year, he's able to take his team to a Super Bowl. So we're looking at a young man who is on the right trajectory, right? The way they played, the way he's been playing, you like to think that the Philadelphia Eagles will be in the conversation of best teams in football for the foreseeable future with him playing that spot. But it doesn't make the sting any less bitter, though, Jim. It's a tough pill to swallow, because all you can do is analyze the things that you did wrong, the things you wish you would have improved on, the things you wish you would have said to your teammates, the changes you would have suggested to the coaches. All of these things continue to play in your mind over and over and over again for quite a while.
And what's the methodology to make it motivation as opposed to depression?
Well, you just kind of consume yourself in the work. You take a couple weeks off, and then you get back to working out again, and you make a vow to yourself that this is not going to be your last chance. And if you get an opportunity again, you'll be ready, better prepared, better informed to be able to win the game. And that's kind of what you have to dive into, because if you continue to analyze it in a way of woulda, coulda, shoulda, there's nothing you can do that's going to change the results. All you can do is change your preparation moving forward, and I think you have to fall in love with that process.
How hard is that?
It's extremely difficult, Jim. I'm sitting here with you. I played in a game 15 years ago, and anytime you get to this time of the year, and you see highlights of old plays and things that are happening, it always comes back to you. It always kind of has that little sting of what could have been. How would your life have been different or better, had you been able to get the job done? So it doesn't leave you anytime soon. But fortunately for Jalen, he's got a lot of football ahead of him, and he can take his team there again.
That's Larry Fitzgerald. I'm Jim Gray. We're right here on Let's Go. We're brought to you by Mastro's the Steakhouse. Indulge in the finest steaks, superior seafood, and melt-in-your-mouth butter cake, all while immersed in an extravagant setting. Visit mastros.com for reservations. So you go on and you have just a tremendous career, but I can still hear, this kind of eats away. Do you really think your life would have been all that much different or better had it not been for one play in a game that took place some 13, 14 years ago?
Absolutely. It's not even close, Jim. If we win that game, I would say me or Kurt would have definitely won MVP of that Super Bowl. That puts you in a completely different place. And you're talking about there's only been 57 Super Bowl MVPs.
Actually much fewer because several guys have won a number of times.
Right. You're right. There's multiple winners. And so it is put you in a different place. And you're able to do it on the biggest stage, the magnitude of the game. And it cements you just as one of the great performers in the biggest moments in the history of the game. And so definitely it does. It changes, the way you're talked about. I mean, you look at guys like, say, Lynn Swann. Lynn Swann doesn't have the numbers, right? Because they didn't throw the football back in the 70s. But what you do remember about Lynn Swann, and I think plays into his greatness, is the plays that he was able to make in the Super Bowls, right? His plays have lived on for 40 years based on what he's done. And, like when they show highlights of him, not often do you see regular season highlights. You see postseason highlights, him taking balls off of guys' heads against the Cowboys and things like that. I mean, so it puts you in a different light. You watch Marcus Allen and that cutback run in the Super Bowl, like that is the defining moment of his career. When you talk about Marcus Allen, you can't even start the conversation without him making that play, right? You talk about John Elway.
Julian Edelman comes to mind. Julian Edelman, John Elway, yes.
You talk about the helicopter, when he's diving and he's in his late 30s and he's putting his body on the line for his team, getting hit by multiple guys, being spun around in the air. Like those moments are ones that define you.
Jim Gray with Larry Fitzgerald. Our program is brought to you by Kay Jewelers. There's one day left until Valentine's Day, Larry. Find the perfect gift at Kay.com and pick it up in store. Celebrate Valentine's Day and every kiss with Kay. All right, the big diamonds went out. The Kansas City Chiefs have them. Valentine's Day tomorrow. But the big ring will come before the beginning of the 2023 season. So much more with Larry Fitzgerald. Stay with us right here on SiriusXM.
Hey, everybody, I'm Jake Mintz.
And I'm Jordan Schusterman, and we are the hosts of Baseball Barbercast. And Jake, is it true football season is over?
Yeah, the ground dog in Pennsylvania poked his head up from the ground and he screamed, "It's baseball time, everybody!"
Indeed, my friend, and spring training is almost here. And if you want to hear all of the happenings in Arizona and Florida, you should listen to us, Baseball Barbercast.
So download Baseball Barbercast on the SXM app, available with all of our trials and popular plans, or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. That's BARB Cast.
Welcome back to Let's Go. I'm Jim Gray, along with the great Larry Fitzgerald. We're brought to you by USAA. USAA was started in 1922 by a group of soldiers who made a promise to always take care of their own. And after 100 years, USAA is still serving the military and their families. Find out more at usaa.com/100. USAA. We now head to the offseason. It's going to be busy. It always is. Everybody's undefeated right now. Chiefs are champions, and everybody else now has hope. Hope that 2023, they'll make the right moves in this offseason with the draft, with free agency, with the players they have, that they will be able to compete for that Vince Lombardi trophy next season. Aaron Rodgers again this offseason is going to be a big topic. Today he begins what he is calling 4 days of darkness, where he goes and turns off his telephones, turns off the television, lives in the dark, and is fed food, I guess, underneath the door. And he's going to evaluate what it is that he wants to do. It's a really interesting concept, and I don't criticize him for it. Everybody should take their own time and do what they want to do to be able to sort things out. This is a hard game. This is his method. Where do you think he ends up next year, Larry?
Well, I mean, that's assuming that he decides to continue to play. I've been in this place where you kind of weighing all your options. How do I feel physically? Do I want to continue to play in the same place that I'm playing at? Or am I happy? Am I as fulfilled as I once was, when I was younger? Like all of these questions, you have to weigh them and make sure that you're doing, your check, because Jim, football is not one of these sports. It's not like baseball or basketball where you can kind of have this ceremonial, tour where you half-heartedly are participating. That's not the case. If you are not fully committed to play football, the physical demand of it's just too taxing for you not to be fully committed. And so, assuming that he does want to continue to play, I know there's a lot of conversations about the Jets, and if I was Aaron, that wouldn't be the most enticing route. It would be something that would be a lot more controversial, like for him to go to the Dallas Cowboys or something like that, where he could be reunited with Mike McCarthy and have a team around him that it's ready made. Top 3 defenses in the league and a plethora of weapons on the outside. Obviously, they have to make a decision with Ezekiel Elliott and his future, but hoping Pollard is coming back and he's healthy. I mean, they have a really, really strong offense.
Is that feasible with all the salary cap machinations that is going to come along? And how do you get value for Aaron Rodgers? How does any team do this? I mean, we just saw what happened in another sport with Kevin Durant, a team that you were formerly associated with in the Phoenix Suns. They've now sent draft picks. They've sent the future. They might win it this year now, and that's a great trade because it's hard to win an NBA championship. But look at what had to happen for the salaries to match and for you to get value for the best player in the league, Kevin Durant. And many people would have said going into the season, even though Tom Brady was voted the best player by his peers, that Aaron Rodgers was right there. Okay? So now how do the Packers get fair value, and how does a team like the Cowboys, who have a lot of talent, figure out the formula where this can work?
Yeah, it definitely is difficult. And obviously I don't know the tax ramifications of something like this for the Cowboys. But I look at Jerry Jones and, you look at him up there in that box against the 49ers and the agony you see on his face of gone this long with such a long playoff drought, a man who's used to success, owns the most valuable sports franchise in America. He's desperately trying to get back on that podium to host that trophy. And, I think, when you really want to go out and do, you got to make decisions, may cost you moving forward, but it gives you temporarily the best opportunity to have success.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Aaron Rodgers and what decisions he and the Packers come to in this offseason. The Jets have inquired, and we'll see where that goes. Our program is Let's Go. We're brought to you by American Express. It's easy to get excited about going to the game. You love hearing the sound of the whistle. You smell the game day concessions all the way from your seat. It reminds you of the thrill of the game. And you know that Amex will be there with you every step of the way. Because when you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express, don't live life without it. Hey, Larry, did you like the halftime show yesterday? Rihanna?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Rihanna. I thought she did an amazing job, and she's probably the first pregnant woman to ever do it as well. I mean, so to go out there and do it in front of, millions and millions of people, while, holding a child is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. The setup, her being, taken in the middle of the stadium, that was an awesome show. So I was up there, I was grooving when she was doing her thing.
To me, and I'm dating myself, I was here when Diana Ross came out of the helicopter. I thought in a way it was kind of a salute to that, where she came down in Tempe against the Cowboys and the Steelers. I know you remember that. You were a big Steelers fan. And I know, unfortunately, that day didn't end as you would have liked. But Diana Ross at halftime, it kind of, Rihanna, I guess in a way, in a modern way, was kind of like that, wasn't it?
Well,
elevating above the crowd.
Yeah, it was. It had some semblance, and she was elevated way up there, and it was a great performance. I really enjoyed it. She's so talented, and I know she hasn't had a performance in over 5 years, and she did not disappoint.
It's almost like you can't top yourself anymore. I mean, what are they going to think of? It's extraordinary. Also all the dancers. It kind of reminded me of the Beijing opening ceremony, where they had however many they had, several hundred
that
drummers
was
down there. But those white marshmallow dancers was pretty cool.
Jim. There's been a lot of great performances. I've seen a lot of them, but nothing that can compare with the opening ceremony at the Olympics. That's still, when I watch it on YouTube, it gives me goosebumps to see how that many people can be that coordinated. 10 plus years later, I still feel the same way.
That was amazing. 2008, for anybody who hasn't seen it, the unison that took place in the Beijing opening ceremonies is truly remarkable and beyond belief. Also thought that the national anthem and God Bless America was also really, really great yesterday as well. We saw Nick Sirianni. He was in tears during the national anthem. It just shows you how much this means and what goes through people and the emotion as they get ready to embark on this.
Yeah, it's I still remember to this day, how I felt, and you're just so happy to be able to have this moment, to be able to share this moment. You dreamed about it, and you never know how you're gonna emotionally feel. And I was kind of taken aback, had goosebumps all up and down my arms, as the national anthem was played, and that was a really cool moment to see Coach really taking it all in.
Hey, folks, if you weren't aware, you found out this week that Tom Brady, Larry, does have his own apparel line. I'm sure you follow social media. Everybody was able to catch it. How would that have gone over in the locker room if Tom had to go to work with the players after that social media release?
They would have had a good time with him for sure. They would have had a good time. But you know what? Hey, you got to sell some draws, man. Hey, you got to sell them. You got to show a little skin. Well, man, Tom had everybody swooning over there, man. But it was great to see my man, doing his thing, showing some love to his own company.
Inspire you to go out and get some?
Definitely. I need to see a photo of you of him.
That would break the internet.
That would.
You don't want to take the entire internet out of commission.
Yeah.
Yes, it has. Yes, it would. And yes, it will. That's something that's not going to happen. Anyway, if you missed it, go check it out. Go check out Tom's social media. And for all the rest of us, just go to bradybrand.com. You can make your order, including the new Brady pant. I don't think anybody's looking at the pant, but the underwear is also there. Brady brand. Get comfortable now. You're going to look good and feel even better. Let's go. Andy Reid. Wasn't sure what he was going to do. Didn't really know, at least didn't indicate before the game. After the game, he was asked about retirement. Said, if they'll have me, I'm coming back. Don't know why he would retire. He is truly a great coach. He's a Hall of Fame coach. He's now won 2 Super Bowls with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think his ticket to Canton was probably written even before yesterday. And I'm really happy for him. He's a friend of mine and a friend of this program.
He is a wonderful man. I got to know him pretty well over the years. And, everybody that's played for him, everybody that's coached with him has nothing but positive things to say about Coach. He does it at the highest level, on and off the field. And, you just have to tip your hat to his excellence, marvel at, what he's accomplished. And, they just don't make coaches like Andy Reid. He's a great blend between like new school understanding and his old school work ethic and mentality. And it works perfectly because he's got this Chiefs rolling.
He does indeed. And I'm glad he's coming back. He's a national treasure in so many ways. He has excelled in this business. And he was a great friend of John Madden. And for some reason, even though they're different people, different personalities, different times, I see some of Coach Madden in him. He just loves the game that much. I guess that's the commonality. They love football.
Yeah. I mean, you cannot love it as much, as required to be great in this profession. You have to be in love with the process and sitting in rooms, watching countless hours of film, trying to find creative ways to, to trick your opponents. I mean, even the ring around the rosy. Remember the play they were running around. I mean, like it's always something with Coach Reid, and you just sat back and chuckle, right? I mean, it was a throw out the back of the end zone, but man, I was sitting there, I'm just laughing, man, because it's so Andy Reid.
It's great, and he loves cheeseburgers. He loves cheeseburgers, and Coach Madden
Jim?
in his day loved to eat too. So it was lots of fun. And Larry, it's been lots of fun once again as we conclude another year here on Let's Go. So appreciative to you for your time, for your energy, for your goodwill, and your good spirit that you bring to this program and to everybody whose life you come in contact with. Thank you, and we look forward to 2 more years right here on Let's Go.
I look forward to it, Jim. It's a real pleasure. I've learned so much from you and Tom and Snake. And every time I get a chance to come on here with you all, I feel even more privileged. And so I love you guys, and I look forward to spending some more time with you in the years to come.
We love you as well. You're very easy to love. You're a great man. Terrific man. Larry Fitzgerald, he's our expert. And he brings us all of his expertise. And any athlete will tell you it helps to work with an expert for buying or refinancing a home. Your expert is an independent mortgage broker. You can find one at findamortgagebroker.com. It's powered by the #1 mortgage lender in America, United Wholesale Mortgage, LLC. Equal housing lender, NMLS number 3038, licensed in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. This is our final show of the season. We want to thank our terrific producer, Dave the Snake Hagen. He does a great job. Larry, he's here for us all the time. He's always on top of his game, and it makes all of our lives so much easier. We give him a hard time, but we love him.
You couldn't have said it better, Jim. Snake, he's the reason that it all goes smooth for us. And Snake, I'm excited for you and your newest endeavor with the marathon coming up. We want to see you. We want to see you in Boston. Right up there with the fastest runners in the world.
We need to get Snake a portable heater. He's always in a blanket. I mean, I don't know what's going on. This guy like working in a cave down there at SiriusXM. I don't understand it. Well, he's always freezing cold. Larry.
No, he doesn't eat meat anymore, Jim. He doesn't eat anything with any iron in it anymore. So he's iron deficient.
No wonder he's cold all the time. He can be cold to us sometimes as too, but we're going to shower him with love. Thanks, Snake. Great job by Harris Fabishoff, our production assistant, and to Brady Gardner for all of his help at SiriusXM, and to our terrific executive producer and executive in charge, Steve Cohen, for all of his help and assistance here in guiding us on Let's Go. We've got terrific sponsors, grateful to them. Our show is presented by Hertz. We thank all the folks over there, as well as our other just sensational sponsors, USAA, Bank of America, American Express, K Jewelers, United Wholesale Mortgage, Brady Brand, Mastro's, Morton's The Steakhouse, Del Frisco's, and Golden Nugget Hotel and Casinos. Let's Go podcast with Larry Fitzgerald was produced by 199 Productions and Scratchy Productions. Thank you so much for joining us. Next week, the best of Let's Go. And then we'll be back next year. So we will see you next September. Thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate all of our guests. Let's go. Goodbye, everybody.